Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, yet to another week of RU ESports, the show that should probably be a question but isn't. We've got a very special show for you guys today. As usual, last week we had two guests come on, Chris Chan and Sean Bryan from Esports Network and Esports Gaming Events. This week we've got, times two the special guest level, leveling up a little bit here in the small world of Ryerson University. Sean Tepper from theScore Esports. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And I'm a Ryerson graduate, too, so happy that you guys reached out, and always happy to help out someone from my alma mater.
Obviously, as usual, we have, I am your host, David Simo Rabinovich, and alongside me I've got Joseph. How's it going, Joseph?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good as well. Let's just jump right into things. Before we do, I'm very curious to know how you got to where you are. That's probably going to be a little bit of a lengthy story, but how are you sitting in this chair today?
I'll try to keep it a little short. Well, I was a journalism student here for 3 years, and was always knew about esports. I played sports all my life. I played football, basketball, none of them very well, but I played them baseball as well. But like every other kid my age, I would go home after practice or whatever, and I'd load up Counter-Strike, I'd load up Warcraft 3, and I would play until 11, 12 o'clock at night, and that was always part of my culture. So I knew about it a little bit. I used to watch a little bit of Halo esports growing up. That was kind of my entry into the competitive scene. When I found out about Dota 1, vanilla Dota, I guess, was fantastic. I spent too many hours that I won't discuss here, and came to J School wanting to be a sports reporter. But then just seeing the industry kind of explode in front of me while I was here, I saw opportunities for really cool stories to be told, and kind of jumped into it from there. So I wrote a few pieces for a few local papers on StarCraft, a little bit on Dota, and then started working at theScore about a year and a half ago as a college football writer. So I wrote about college football for them, and then saw that they were starting up an esports division. Knew I wanted to get involved, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, and then here you are, sitting here at RU ESports.
Yeah.
The top esports show here, Ryerson.
The top esports show. The one and only esports show. The one and only esports show. So you mentioned Dota, you mentioned CSGO, but what is your favorite esports? What do you affiliate yourself with?
Oof, loaded question. I definitely the one that I play the most and watch the most, I'd say, is probably League of Legends. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it a lot. It's a game that I played back in season 1 when it first came out, and kind of took a break, with school and work, everything. I didn't have a lot of time, and now that I work in esports, I have a lot more time to play games, and I feel kind of like it's my duty to play
it's your job now.
Games. I need to know what's up, so I loaded back on League, and well, I'd say I picked it up and was right where I was before, but I like to think that I was better than my current bronze ranking.
So when people ask you what you do you say you play and talk about video games for a living?
I should. I say I work. I say like I work in esports.
I think that's even better, because then it's like, oh, what does he do? Is he a personality? Does he stream? What does he do? No, we don't know. But yeah, no. What is so that's your favorite to play?
Yeah.
Right? What's your favorite to watch? Is it still League of Legends, or do you prefer something else?
You know what? To be quite honest, so I came in knowing League of Legends. I also used to play a lot of Dota 2 before I kind of hopped over to League. So those were definitely my two favorite to watch, the MOBA genre definitely. And then last year, I used to play CSGO very casually with friends, or Counter-Strike Source, I guess. It wasn't even CSGO at the time. And been watching it for a year and a half now, and I think from a viewing experience, CSGO is incredible to watch. It's a lot of fun. I'd say right now that's probably my, in terms of like excitement, getting in just as a watch from a viewer perspective, it's definitely Counter-Strike right now. I'd say above League, but League does a very good job with their storylines, and you feel very invested in watching.
Definitely.
Some teams, and
Definitely
have watched a lot, too many, if there is such a thing, too many hours of esports over the last year and a half.
Well, I would argue that besides like fighting games, maybe Counter-Strike is one of the easiest esports just to watch and follow. Like, it's very simple. There's five guys, kill the other ones, blow up the bomb, whatever. Unlike League of Legends, where you got to know all the skill shots, you got to know all the abilities, the champions. And,
Absolutely. Just as a casual viewer, anybody can come in and pick up Counter-Strike right away. It's a very simple game to get on a very basic level. Obviously, a lot more complicated, like anything else, when you get kind of into the nitty-gritty of it. Whereas League, when I'm watching with people who kind of know MOBAs or they know more real-time strategies. I'd say they played, StarCraft campaign back in the day. They played Warcraft. I watch it and it's like, okay, cool. Like, Alistair Kog'Maw bottom, like this should be, pretty like protect them all, whatever. And they're like, well, what does that little thing that spits acid do? And it's like, oh, here are his 4 abilities. And they're like, so does the big bull do the same thing? And it's like, actually, no, he doesn't. And let me tell you what all 10 of the characters do.
It's very interesting. I have actually a class called Sports Presentation. And in that class, every week we have to do some sort of presentation, whether it's commentary, whether it's a rant, whether it's an interview, and we have to kind of like, develop our skill as somebody who's going to be on the air, right? And very recently, our final assignment, which is coming up tomorrow, actually, we have to do like a 20-minute show. And some we have to get everybody in our group on air. So it's like, okay, what do we do? So me and this guy, Adam, shout out to Adam, whose name is really hard to pronounce, Anagnostopoulos.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. We did a little esports feature where I'm teaching him how to play League of Legends. And he's translating everything into sports metaphors.
So, I got to check that out. That's right up my alley.
I'll send you a link when it's all done and edited. But it's definitely, something that I'm proud of because it's like a good bridge between both universes. But yeah, no, a lot of people, what's interesting I find is people who don't come from Warcraft 3 or like StarCraft or from any of the Blizzard games, they're still really invested into League of Legends. Like this MOBA formula just really, really works well with people who want to get into video games. Like League of Legends has a steep learning curve, but like it has a cute learning curve, Like it's kind of like, it's fun to jump in. It's fun to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at its basic level, it's obviously not like Counter-Strike where it's easy to understand right off the bat. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just 2 teams of 5 trying to knock down the other team's turrets and essentially kill their base. And I think if you start with that, leave out, jungle camps and dragons and Baron and, kind of the nitty gritty, like people can understand, okay, this team of 5 is trying to break down this team's base and they're going to fight each other in the process.
Yeah, for sure. Last kind of couple of fun questions before we're gonna get into like the nitty gritty. There's a lot here. It's very loaded.
I'm excited.
It's fully loaded. You said you're a little bit of a sports fan as well. What is your favorite sport to watch?
Big sports fan.
A little bit, but big.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a big NFL football fan, college football as well. So I will watch any kind of football that's on TV. Big hoops fan. Go Raptors. And
they're doing well.
And a monster baseball fan.
Baseball
back
fan.
to the days of the Montreal Expos. I'm from Montreal originally, so they were the home team until they weren't the home team, and then the Blue Jays found a very special place in my heart.
Yeah. Really quick question: do you think they'll do well this season? You think coming up?
I think
they'll do
this
well?
is the season where everything, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx anything. I think they're going to do fine this season. The pitching is sneaky deep. Their lineup is it's the best hitting lineup in the major leagues. Doesn't matter how you look at it. It'll be what happens after this year, in my opinion. That will be interesting. But I'm hoping for a good year. I bought my flex pack. I'm booked for 16 games this year, and I'll probably buy a few more here and there if time permitting.
Yeah. So you still follow and like keep up to date with a lot of like just regular sports, right? Even though you're in esports.
See, part of some people wake up and they watch the news. Some people wake up and they'll check Twitter or New York Times. I always check out like my sports news first of all. First and foremost, I'll check out like what's going on with the Chiefs, what's going on with the Jays, what's going on with the Raptors. Then I'll get into like my local news, world news, and then we move into esports for the rest of the day.
That takes up a lot of your time. So you want to start off with something a little light.
Well, I wouldn't say local and world news be light, but it's all about staying aware. As journalists, we're taught that you've always got to be aware of kind of everything that's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just enjoy reading a lot. It's funny, I don't read books. but I read a ton of articles.
Ton of articles, yeah. We'll get into this a little bit later, but we definitely want to know about what your opinion is on long form journalism.
Cool.
But we'll get into that a little bit later. The last fun question: who is your favorite esports pro personality, whoever it may be, that you kind of see always in the Twitter media or on Twitch or that plays professionally anywhere really?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh man, on the spot. Who's my favorite pro? I'm gonna have to. I was out in Europe with our crew covering Worlds this year, and just got to watch a ton of League a lot. I've got to say, in terms of a pro player that I enjoy watching, this is going to sound like a cop-out when I'm going to try to explain it to make it sound a little better, is I really liked watching Faker play, and not because he's obviously the best in the world, the best of his craft, but you can just see he's
meticulous.
He's very meticulous. The second he walks onto the stage, he's locked in.
Well, didn't he roll onto stage?
Yeah. Or I should say when he vein rolls on the stage. But he's locked in, he's all business, ready to go.
Yeah.
And there's something about that I respect a lot. So yeah, Faker is obviously, I find, for any who's your favorite pro, kind of the cop-out answer.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of the intensity that he brings. And it's a quiet intensity. I think when people think intensity, they think a lot about, sports stars who are kind of the vocal leaders of their team, the big kind of fist pump on the on the thing, the Jose Bautista bat flip kind of thing. But I'd say Faker brings something else, and he just looks locked in from start to finish. And then you could see he's goofy. He's he seems like a fun guy, very nice guy. But he's just when he steps onto the stage and loads onto the rift, he's all business.
Yeah. No, I gotta say that your explanation makes up for the cop-out answer. I would probably say
we're not even at the hard stuff yet.
Yeah, I would say probably I would say High, all-time favorite player.
Absolutely,
he is a phenomenal shot caller. I'm talking CSGO, Brawl. I watch a lot of Melee. I think probably my favorite player would be Armada, but High, favorite esports personality. He's just so lighthearted. Open Twitter letters all the time, just see through to the nines. You can and he's a phenomenal player to boot.
Yeah, I find that a lot of, to be honest, just being around the scene, I really like you just see these guys, and I like how transparent a lot of them are, how very fan interactive, fan heavy they are. It's really refreshing to see coming from a sports world where it's, even when they're at their most open, sometimes they're still very closed off and they seem kind of so far away, where it's really nice, the interaction. You watch these guys' streams and they're interacting and talking to their audience. There's something really nice and grassroots about it that I hope, as esports gets bigger and bigger, doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
One of my favorite League of Legends esports players, actually kind of weird. I don't know if you remember Elements.
Yeah.
He used to play for Chris. A lot of people really hated him. He missed.
Who was it?
Elements.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant the team. I thought it was Elements wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, he missed a lot of Sona ults, but I remember that's when I started to really get into League. I really noticed him. He basically taught me to support, and he was Canadian too, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, you always got to support the Canadian.
And then he coached Coast as well, so he kind of made me a Coast fan when they had Zanspern. And not anymore, definitely. But yeah, really weird. And then he kind of just went off the map. Now he streams, but it's kind of sad. Some people just die in the esport. They just kind of disappear, and no one really hears from them anymore.
Yeah, I think I don't. You do. There are definitely players like that, but I think that's kind of is something that you'll see less and less of now that more opportunities are coming in.
Yeah.
It's getting bigger. There's going to be more opportunities for these guys to have stuff post playing career. So that's really exciting too. Definitely. But I want to, I should have changed my cop-out answer to any Canadian player. I will totally, sell out for the Canadian guys.
Toronto.
If you're...
Maple Street, odd one.
Yeah, if you're from Toronto or Canada, I'm rooting for you.
Shifter.
Shifter as well.
There's actually a lot of Canadian League pros.
And it kind of sucks how they kind of ball it into North America, and then that gets changed to America.
Yeah.
People kind of forget that Canada's part of that too.
We're up here, guys. There's no igloos, no polar bears. It was a beautiful day in Toronto. We got Drake.
We got esports too.
Yeah,
We got theScore esports.
We got theScore esports. We got Drake.
Yeah.
We're good.
Now, before we continue into the nitty-gritty, I'm really curious, since you being a CSGO fan, do you have a favorite CSGO player, Joseph? Because I know League, that's an easy easy answer, man. But CSGO is like where your head's at. So I'm curious.
You know what? It's again just like League is with like support the Canadians. My favorite player is totally Shroud on Cloud9. He not only is like an all-star and does crazy, like he has crazy clips and he usually does really, really well, but he's Canadian too. Like one of the only like top like Canadian players. Like there's a lot of Canadians on like lower tier teams, but none that are like that good on like one of the top teams in like North America. Yeah. So definitely Shroud. And just out of one, like when Cloud9 has Sean Garris, just like all of Cloud9, they're all cool dudes. You have like Freakazoid is like this bodybuilder buff, like cool guy. Yeah. You have Sean Garris who's like the smart, like whatever tactician. You have Nothing who's like the goofball. Skadoodle who's like the quiet but like beast, and then of course you had Shroud who's just like a god, right? And Canadian too.
Yeah,
so all of Cloud9 basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously huge Cloud9 fan. Love Mango, love the CSGO team, love the 2 League of Legends teams that they had for like a short minute. But before we continue to the nitty gritty questions, if you have a question for Sean about anything esports related or how the news process works, we'll get into that a little bit. But if you have any curious questions, you can tweet them out at RU_esports on Twitter. Yes, we are on Twitter. You can find us there, RU_esports. Tweet your questions, and Sean, we'll read them out to Sean and see what he says. He might say, "I don't want to answer that," but he probably won't. He'll be right, Sean.
Only if people I know tweet in. Then I'm not answering them.
All right. Well, we'll start with the first question, and I kind of was experienced to this a little bit when I was over there. But what is the news process like? Like how do you get that nugget of information? Where do you get it, and how does it make its way into an article?
Well, honestly, it's not much different from the regular news, whether it be city news, sports news, any kind of news. We have a group of writers and reporters that know the scene. They know kind of what's going on. In terms of just in spot news and breaking news stories, a lot of it comes about on Twitter, Facebook. We kind of gather that stuff, and a lot of teams make announcements on their website. Like when a team makes an announcement, it. So that stuff is easy. We have inside like reporters, writers
do you have
as well.
Like inside knowledge? Like do teams ever contact you first and say like we want to make it like the
That's
score?
Probably a little weird. That's probably a little weird.
Like I mean, everyone in the scene is like very, I'd say connected. But like I mean, there's sometimes just like in regular news, like you'll see certain, we'll get stuff early under embargo and kind of know what's up, and then from there, we figure out like, okay, here are kind of the news stories of the day. How can we get go above and beyond that? Do any of our guys want to? Is there a potential feature idea there? Is there somebody that we'd like to interview? And just figuring out there. So it always starts, I'd say, with like a news story, and from there we just let it grow as much as it needs to.
Cool. Back when I was there, you were talking. It was I think around Worlds time or All Stars. It was around All Stars time. And you guys were talking about like Marin, and there was like, oh, we gotta get the article out soon. Come on, put it out. Yeah, it was really interesting to see that side of esports because. People don't really, when all the media outlets started coming out, when you guys came out, and then Daily Dot, or prior to that, Daily Dot came out.
Before us.
Now Yahoo's trying to slip in the door as the door's closing behind it. It's really interesting to see that side because everyone always talks about like scrums and like we got to get this interview with this NHL player or basketball, those court interviews and article. It's interesting to see the esports side of news from a different angle. Now, there are obviously times when tensions might be high amongst some teams. Previously, there was a big issue between Thorin and Monte Cristo on Reflections, or is that the show? Reflections?
Well, Summoning Insight.
Summoning Insight, and Thorin made some comment, and then TSM was just like, no media. So, like, have you ever been put through something like that? Or, like, what do you think is the proper procedure around that? Or, like, is there... What are your thoughts on when tensions are high for particular teams? Like if they're underperforming, like would you get anything out of them?
My like in terms of player access with the media and team access to the media, right now, as far as I know, it's not like in the NFL, the NHL, Major League Baseball. The locker room is a place of business, and reporters are there, and certain players like I think everyone, whether you're a sports fan or not, knows famously Marshawn Lynch at the Super Bowl where he's just sitting there. I'm only here so I don't get fined. So in those sports, there's a structure where the guys have to talk to the media. There's press conferences and that thing. And as far as my knowledge in esports, there's not that. So while it's as a journalist and an editor, it's frustrating sometimes when teams won't talk to you, but it's totally in their rights to not. And if they choose not to, I mean, again, it's disappointing, but until they're contractually obliged to do so, like, it's their prerogative whether or not they want to talk to the media. And you have to, whether or not you agree with it or not, you have to respect that.
What are some of the teams that you've kind of come across? I mean, you don't have to put anybody on blast, of course, but like, what are some teams that have kind of given you a little bit of a tough time when you guys are trying to get the scoop, trying to get the nitty-gritty news?
I wouldn't say we've ever had like a really tough I think a lot of the time people like to they like to say that, like, either A is being like too harsh on them, like they're like, there's no like villain or hero. I think we're always trying to find like somebody to make the villain here, and it's never that. Like, a team that won't talk to you about one thing will be happy to talk to you about another one. So it's across all the scenes, but it's no different. Like, I think there's a kind of misconception that's it's like an esports thing, and like this, this organization doesn't want to talk to the media. Whereas the same happens I've worked at in the Toronto Star newsroom, at the Globe and Mail newsroom, and I think everybody knows that the late Rob Ford, like, his media, like, he never released schedules to the media for his stuff. So you see it every day. I mean, that's just one example where certain, whether it's a head of state, whether it's a player like Marshawn Lynch, he didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere, and again, until there's some form of regulation for post-game or pre-game stuff, it's their prerogative not to talk.
So you're mentioning like the locker room in sports, how like that's where you find the players. That's how you can get a comment from them, or in the whatever the press conference. But so in esports, how do you contact players? Is it just like a Skype call or a Skype message, or do you actually go to like the studio and try to like flag them down and like ask for a question or something?
Well, it depends if we're at the venue or not.
Yeah.
I mean, we are at quite a few events, and obviously when we're there, we try to grab them after the games. Before the game, you want to give them their space to practice. Right. I mean, you would never grab Jose Bautista during batting practice an hour before a game and be like, "Hey, Joey, like, got a question for you." But after events, sometimes we'll grab them. Sometimes we'll go through the organizer. We'll have a media relations person, and we'll go through them. And sometimes if if it's to confirm a piece of news, whether it be a rumor or like a cryptic tweet we see, we'll tweet at them. And surprisingly, and I think we were talking about this earlier with the whole interaction thing, it's not as hard as people would think to kind of get guys. And esports runs on Skype, so I definitely say that in terms of talking to people, Skype is a big one. But it's not as I'd say like formal as some people might think. When you're at the venue, obviously it is. There's organizers. There's a dedicated press room, press times, things like that. But in terms of just on a day-to-day basis, and then you build up a rapport with them. I mean, all these guys are people too. Like, you're looking for information, but you have to remember as a journalist that these are people as well. Yeah. And that's something to always keep in mind.
Are press conferences like common in esports? Because I think after Worlds, didn't Fnatic or SKT or
Faker,
SKT,
some Korean teams definitely did.
They
some
had
press
like an actual like press conference like with a panel and
absolutely.
like questions.
I think like press conferences for big tournaments. I mean, everyone loves one-on-one interviews. News organizations like theScore eSports, we love it because we get to ask our own questions. Yeah. And you never want to have the same thing as everyone else. That's not to say that you're digging for dirt or whatever, but we have our experts and they want to ask some questions, and ESPN, Daily Dot, they have their experts. Yahoo, they have their experts. They want to ask their questions. But press conferences, when you have a large crowd of people, is the most organized way. Mm-hmm. You can say, here's half an hour. You got these 5 guys ask questions. So it's a very efficient way. And it's a good way for larger scale events when, people like at Worlds, SKT. I believe SKT and KU both did one before the finals. And it was, there was just a lot of media there. Having these guys are people. Having them do kind of like what movie like stars do when they like kind of sit in a room and it's like from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. like you will have an interview every 15 minutes. Like, it gets tiring. It's not fun for the guys. They hear these, everyone's going to ask some of the same questions, even though you have your different ones. So for the pros, I think a press conference, it's more, it's easier for them. And from, a media standpoint, it's pretty organized. CLG did a press conference after they won the NA finals at Madison Square Garden. It was an awesome press conference. They gave some really good answers, some really good stuff.
So it's starting to happen more than press
Yeah, I
conference.
think it's more just, and it's just an efficiency thing, I think.
It's cool.
That kind of brings us to yet another question about the way that news is delivered, especially in the esports industry. What constitutes for you as esports news? Because I know for us here at RU Esports, on our Facebook page, Esports RU, if you want to hook us up on Facebook with a like, or RU Esports. But I think the official is Esports RU, or on Twitter. We always tweet about stuff that's general news. So we've tweeted about Fnatic recently had one of the first players on a Vogue cover. Esports Hall of Fame just came out from ESL. France has been, engaging with the esports industry. Now they're going to start developing it from, whoever's there at the grassroots level. France, the government, is going to start helping out these people. So we tweet about all these. And even recently, the Toronto Star, there was a female commentator who was featured, and I think it was also on the Metro newspaper or something like that.
I haven't read that yet, but I have it starred on my bookmarked.
Yeah, and people are really, really, into this kind of like general news. So for theScore esports, you guys tend to deal more with delivering stuff like from like a ESPN perspective, where it's like this player is doing this team is doing that, this tournament's doing this. What do you guys at the esports score consider news, and like what would you put out and what would you not put out?
That's actually a really good question. So as an editor, our writers are all looking for news and pitching their own stories and pitching kind of stories they see. It's important for us to, put on kind of our editor hat and say, okay, what is newsworthy? What are we covering or not? But I think news, it's kind of a loaded question. There's a lot of different types of news, and I think there's something for everybody. When we, right now we do roster, like breaking news, roster transactions, teams joining, teams disbanding, feature articles, analytical articles. But that's, even though people say like these long form features, does that qualify as news? I think some people would say no, breaking news is like the things that, news is breaking news. It's the things that happen immediately. TSM picking up double lift. That's news. Freakazoid, when that whole thing kind of fiasco was simple, that's news. Would you say that, kind of an analytical piece is in the same boat as that? Like, no, it's a different, it's not, but it's a different kind of news.
Yeah.
The same as like personally, like I'm a huge pop culture guy. Like I love everything about pop culture. So I'm a New York Times reader. I read that kind of stuff, and that's news as well. But I'll also, read some stuff that other people might say is a little trashy. Comic book news, movie news on my latest TV shows.
Yeah.
So we do all the breaking news, we do analytical news, feature news, and we balance it all out. And we also do, fun posts too, because this is esports. It's fun. Like when Daigo was it? I can't remember.
He played Lupe
Daigo
Fiasco.
played
I read that
Lupe
article,
Fiasco.
yeah.
Like that's a fun kind of event. And
Yeah.
is it as newsworthy as double lift joining TSM or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe some people will say no, some people will say yes, but it's enjoyable. I would, as a fan, want to read it. And it's all, I think in terms of news coverage, it's all about being balanced. Personally, that's my philosophy. I obviously am very biased. I like what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And the kind of news that we provide. I think it's a very balanced news, kind of a product right now. We're putting out breaking news. We're putting out a ton of analytical feature stuff. And we have some of those kind of fun, jokey posts a little bit, because it's all about balance. And we always say, if you can't have fun with esports, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely some serious aspects for it, but there's
Yeah.
also a lot of fun stuff that happens.
Are there any games that you won't do at all, or any that maybe are coming up that you'd like to do? Like, have you done anything for Rocket League?
No, we haven't done anything for Rocket League yet. We have, our verticals on the app right now, and we started when we first launched. We had League of Legends, Dota, Counter-Strike. Oh God, I hope I don't miss any. Anyways, we had those. We had StarCraft. We had Call of Duty. We had when we launched, we didn't have HOTS. So that's where I was getting at. So we had a bunch of verticals, and I apologize if I missed any. It's been a long day. I've been up since 6 in the morning. But we've added, because the thing that's really cool about the whole genre of esports is that, games come and games go, and you've got to be able to adapt to new scenes. new pro scenes that kind of pop up. And so, yeah, and then we, when we launched a HOTS vertical, I don't remember the exact date, but it was after, we launched, it was its own kind of standalone thing. So we're doing stuff. We do a lot of different types of coverage, but we mainly cover
the big ones.
The ones that we have verticals built out for. Big what? Like, yes, you can quantify it with numbers, but the thing is, it's like there's a fan for everything out there.
It's true,
and you have to respect that. Like, I've growing up as a baseball fan in Montreal, a hockey city. Like, there weren't a lot of other baseball fans like me, or a lot of hockey fans. I'm not personally a hockey fan. I will root for the Habs, though. I won't root for the Leafs. You don't want to disrespect any member of the community because their community is important. Everyone's community is important. And it's important to keep that in mind. We've never, I can say this, we have never looked at a piece of news. It's too small. Like, no, we're not going to deal with that. In terms of, if it's important or not with the resources, we'll do that. But we'll never look at a game and be like, no one will care about that.
What's interesting is, eventually these games, people are going to stop playing these games one day, right? Have you ever thought about like what might happen to a game like League of Legends? Like, will Riot make like a League of Legends 2 or something? Like, how much longer do you think League of Legends will last as like a competitive esport, or even just a game, like a game to play that's fun?
I even have like 2 cents to add on that actually before you get into it.
Go for it.
I think like they created Dota 2 just for the purposes of improving Dota and getting it away from the Warcraft client. Like, I think Dota 2 is just going to sit there. And like for StarCraft, they're like, we're not going to make a StarCraft 3. We're just going to make all these expansions, right? Like, I feel like they don't need to. And it's all about patching. It's all about creating new content. That's why World of Warcraft just sits on an expansion for like 2 years, because they just keep adding these updates. They add these mini expansions on top of the expansion. So I think like for League of Legends, and recently there was news that they bought out a fighting game developer, and they're gonna do something funky with that. Who knows what'll happen there? But I honestly don't think that they need to. And you can jump in now.
Yeah, I think I'm like you. Like, I'm just waiting and seeing. The really cool things with the MOBA genre in particular is there's constantly new heroes and champions being added. So League of Legends, season 1 is nothing like League of Legends now.
Right.
How long will it, stay as a top esport? I don't think anybody really knows. I think that's a question a lot of people are asking, because whenever you're looking to, either cover something or get into a scene, especially like the bigger companies, they want to know, like, if a company invests in an NFL football franchise, they're not too worried that, the NFL, like football, nobody's going to watch football in 10 years. I think it would be naive to think that big investors are not thinking, will League of Legends be the number one? Like, it's bringing in great numbers now. It's super popular. It's the most popular esport in the world, some people would say. And, but I do think in the back of some people's heads that's there. Personally, I'd love to see all these. I think, again, like I said before, all these esports, regardless of numbers, they all have dedicated communities and fan bases. And I'd like to see them all kind of succeed at the top, or to continue to kind of ride it out. It's a question we talk about all the time, kind of just, when we're chatting, and I just don't think anybody knows. It could be 3 years, it could be 10 years. Like, if you're guessing, I don't know.
It keeps going up, really. It's gonna plateau eventually, I think, but the plateau is gonna be in a nice spot.
People call esports a bubble, and they say like just gonna keep getting bigger, and eventually it's gonna pop. I personally don't think that. I think it's gonna be here for like a long time.
Yeah, but if League of Legends, let's say, tomorrow, for whatever reason,
stock market crash, the esports crash.
The esports crash, the apocalypse hits, and Dota, CSGO, and League of Legends fall off. I truly believe that just another game will take its place.
Yeah, for sure.
That's true.
And that's why I don't think
Overwatch, Rocket League, they're all sliding in now, right?
If the bubble's gonna pop, it's because it's getting too big. It needs another bubble. I'm not worried about esports kind of going the ways of the dinosaurs, because I think even if the big games fall off, which I definitely don't, I do not think that's going to happen anytime soon, something else will take its place.
Well, they're still growing, and they have
Absolutely.
been for years, and they're not stopping. Like, there's no signs of any slowing down.
It's just getting bigger, bigger, and bigger. It's
and even
really
if it
crazy.
does plateau, it'll be huge.
Yeah, I like saying it now, because obviously anybody looking at esports realm right now just knows it's getting massive, and it's only going to continue to grow. But if, again, for doomsday scenario, if it just plateaued tomorrow, it would be fine.
That's true.
Like the
Yeah.
industry would be cool.
I'm really curious as to we're gonna get into a Twitter question actually very shortly from our friends at Game Without Pain, which is, you know, they're very into like fitness and health for esports players, which is really interesting. But I was curious, like, sports have like the big four or something like that, right? Or like I don't know what it's called. It's like the big five or the big four.
Big
and it's just
four.
like
In
the
terms
big four.
of the most popular sports.
The most popular. Is there like a big something for esports? Like what are the big? Is there? Do we have a big four? Like is it League, Dota, CSGO, and that's it?
I mean,
or
at the end of the day, I think it's you know, it depends on the person you ask. I think if you just look at the numbers, and which a lot of people do when they look at it, I think you've got League of Legends, I think you've got Dota 2, you've got Counter-Strike as probably the big three ones.
Yep, I agree.
But again, I
CS:GO,
think if
Call of Duty's kind of like
Call of
trailing that.
Duty's getting there.
know
Like
if it's
HOTS has a dedicated scene. You know, people
StarCraft
say
is
that
dying.
StarCraft is dying,
Yeah.
but whenever they kind of get like a big event going on, like people are still there. I think that's a whole side thing. I think everybody in esports who follows esports grew up with StarCraft. That was kind of like the first, whether it was, you know, StarCraft 1 or Brood War or whatever. Everyone started with StarCraft, so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Like, you know, some nostalgia factor. A lot of people still follow it, even if, you know, not as intensely as other ones.
What do you think about Hearthstone? Do you think that's going to
Hearthstone, I think,
it's already probably fairly big.
Hearthstone's fairly big. That was another one. That would be, if we're again going on numbers, that would definitely be in the conversation as well. I think I love Hearthstone. I was a former Magic the Gathering geek until it got way too expensive for me. But I think Hearthstone's a ton of fun to play. I like
easy
how
to play, too.
Easy to play, easy to get. Well, easy to play.
Easy to
you
access. Like you have it on
Is
your
it?
phone.
No.
Is it if you started tomorrow? We
No.
talked about this. How would you tell somebody, you know, if they can't? It's not free to play and easy access. You need to buy some basic packs. You need to buy the adventures.
Yeah, like even,
I think if
even
somebody
you,
tomorrow started, it would be a minimum,
Well, do you
bare
think
minimum of $40.
if you stopped playing for half a year, you're already behind.
Yeah.
Like you need to play like at least 3 times a week.
So do you think Hearthstone's pay to win then?
A little bit, yeah.
No, like, are you talking on the pro level or the casual level?
Like
Casual level,
Like,
yes.
are you like the more
No,
you
I
spend,
don't
are
think
you
it's
gonna get
pay to
better?
win because you could. I have a friend who started when GVG had just come out, and his whole motto was, "I am going to do the whole thing free to play." And he put a lot of his payment was in time,
Yep.
and he was able to essentially gold out his collection from free to play. And then that crumbled. He essentially was like, I put so many hours in, I'm going to buy BlackRock and, you know, I'm going to buy this stuff, which is cool. Like, I think, you know,
he earned it.
He earned it. But yeah, exactly. He earned it. But like, I definitely think that it's pay to win, I guess, but it's not just in dollar value. It's in time as well. And I think at the pro level, it's not a question you could really ask because you'd assume that every pro has every card,
And
or at least
knows
every
every
card
card,
they
yeah.
need, or every
Yeah.
meta card.
Yeah.
It'd be really funny if one day it's like you just saw a pro with kind of like a, I don't know, like
like basic card.
yeah,
deck.
and just like crap, like should have crafted Ragnaros, you know?
What's that? I've never seen that. card
What
before.
arcane intellect? What is that?
Who would have thought Nosdormu would be meta?
Anyways, let's get into some Twitter questions. We have two, one joking, one serious.
Oh, man.
The joking one is from our homeboy. Actually, it's kind of serious. Homeboy Andrew Tanzel. He's asking if you want a duo later, but
I think it means right now.
He means right now. I don't know if you got your laptop. If you can boot up League of Legends. But
Andrew, we were talking earlier, man. You're gonna shock call for me, and you're gonna carry me out of bronze too, man. So if I'm awake later, hell yeah, we're gonna duo.
all right, so that answers that. You know, hope you got what you wanted, Andrew. And now we're gonna move on to Game Without Pain. This guy's located out in Toronto. I actually have an Xbox One bag, and it's courtesy of them. They did this whole health and fitness thing at an Xbox Loft. It was phenomenal. They ask. This is not really a journalism question, but it's kind of just like your own perspective.
I'll do what I can.
Do what you can. What do you think about pros retiring early due to injury, and what kind of support system is needed?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think injuries in esports is one of the things that doesn't really get as much, coverage.
It's kind of a joke to some people.
To some people, but I mean, like, these guys have real, they're putting hours in, carpal tunnel, people love, like, a lot of people who don't know the scene are kind of casual fans or kind of looking outside. It's like, how do you get into playing esports? But it is serious. I mean, back problems you're seeing. I mean, you see people at regular office jobs who are now getting standing desks because you realize, sitting for 8 hours a day for, so many weeks, days, months, years. Like it's hard on you. So I think it's something that people need to talk a lot about more in terms of what the support system would be. I don't know. That is the kind of honest answer. I'd hope to see, maybe physiotherapy, maybe teams work with physiotherapists. I know a lot of teams have workout regimens, and a lot of them do keep fit and active, and I think that's really important. Not just because these guys are, pro gamers, but I think in everybody's life, you need to be a little bit, it's all about balance. You need to be active, and it feels great, go to the gym and then get back to your job after. But I do think it's an issue that needs to be talked about a little more. It's very serious. Like it's not something to joke about. And I hope that, as the scene develops, that develops as well.
Do you think esports has a retirement age, and what age would that be? And do you think that's because of injuries like this, or do you think it's just because they're kind of losing their skill?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of. I think esports. In sports. I mean, I'm always going to come back to the sports comparison because that's where my initial background is, and I'm a huge sports fan, and I love comparing the two. I think when people hear, a player is retired or leaving, it's because they've had too many concussions, they tore their ACL, they're not coming back. It's always injury related or it's age. Mm-hmm. In esports, I think there's a lot of different reasons players retire. I think, some of them might just be fed up with the pro lifestyle and decide, I'd rather be a streamer. So that's one reason that pros retire. And I don't think that's necessarily because of, their skill has dropped off. And then again, obviously you have if the meta changes and it just a player doesn't, the meta doesn't suit them and they can't kind of pick it up where, some younger guys are able to pick it up sooner. I think that's another reason. A lot of these guys playing, kids, they're my age. A lot of these guys playing.
I'd say they're kids. They're kids.
Kind of kids.
They're 18 to 20.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys playing, they want to go back to school, follow another career. I can't remember. I think it was Cali Trolls on Team 8 who... And I might be wrong on this.
It's true.
But he left to go to pharmaceutical.
Yeah, and he had the whole League of Legends Reddit thing where he was trying
and I think that was awesome. He played, he had a great time. He seemed like a super nice guy. And then, he wanted to go back to school and pursue his passion and his career. And I think that's awesome.
Wasn't Glebe in high school when he was on TSM? He had to go from the house back to school, back and forth.
Yeah,
I think it was Glebe.
Yeah, I think maybe Bunny Fufu was also something like that.
Definitely a lot of kids are they want to finish high school, but then university or college a whole other thing.
And I think people think of retirement, maybe there might be a little negative connotation, but it's people in their careers, whether you work at a bank, a journalist, you just want to try something new, and pivot that way. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's a lot of maybe there's not a lot, but there's different things that they could do after their esports career as a player. What's the name of the guy who's one of the observers now for League of Legends?
That's the guy.
He used to be on Velocity or something.
He's really, really short hair.
Yeah, the thing is he wasn't the best player, but after that he found the opportunity to be.
He was on Team Marn as well, MRN.
Yeah.
Way. Nick Wu.
Well, what options besides because everyone knows you can be a streamer if you're popular, but what about the people who have spent a lot of time trying to make this run and they're not the most liked, they're not the best player, they kind of just maybe they got kicked from their team. What options do they have? They've wasted I don't want to say wasted, but they spend a lot of their time invested in this game, hours every day. They're not in school or something. What can they do afterwards?
Yeah, I think just as the scene grows, there's more opportunities. You're seeing that now. Teams have coaching structures, and they're only getting more. It started with one coach, and now you have a few analysts and a coach, and it's only getting bigger. So I think that's a really good option for them to stay with it. They can stay within the industry, whether that's on the game front, working for the publisher of the game, an event company like an ESL or a DreamHack, whether that's working in the media. As a insider, as a writer, you see
Dexter
stuff all the time. Yeah, Dexter does some video stuff for us, and he's awesome. And so there's a lot of different avenues for these guys, and as it grows, you can only speculate what it'll be, but it's just same as you look at retired sports stars.
Well, they have millions of dollars.
Yeah, I guess the dollar value is a little bit different there, but I think it'll get up there, and I think regardless. There will be a time where guys can retire and be comfortable.
Last week we were talking about a very funny vision where Bjørgensen gets in his Lamborghini in the morning, steps out of his mansion, and drives to TSM practice. But that's a vision that I don't think I'll see for a little while. But it's definitely a thought, right? Because we know LeBron James does the same thing for the Cavs. He'll pull up in his Dr. Dre Beats and Air Jordans, and you know he's got suit from Armani, and he's all set to go. But we're about 15 minutes left in the show. We do have a couple of questions, but I'm gonna cut down to the very, very important questions that I'm very curious about.
All right. I've been delaying it as long as possible.
Yeah. Two, and then 2.5 maybe. We'll see how much time we have. But the first one is about long form journalism. Now that seems to be dying in general. We know Grantland very recently
Rest in peace. That was one of my favorite websites.
Shut down, which was a long form journalism for sports, and now. We kind of see that in Gold Per 10 a little bit in esports, and there was Cloth 5 once upon a time. There's a lot, theScore does a lot of like quick hits and sometimes a little bit of long form. But like what I feel like
I'm gonna have to cut you off right there. We do quite a bit of long form.
Quite a bit of long form.
Like some of our stuff get into the several thousand words across all the games that we cover. I'm a big fan of long form journalism. I would say I'm not the best feature writer. I've tried feature writing. I'm a news guy, but I mean I'm still one of those dinosaurs, I guess, who buys my 6-8 magazines a year and reads long form. I think it's important to the scene. It allows you to get. I mean, quick hits are fine for kind of the news items, but sometimes things beg further development. I mean, if you read any piece. From our writers, Kelsey Moser, Emily Wren, they write about League of Legends for us. Josh Burry writes about HOTS for us. We have Annabelle Fisher and Preston Doza who write Dota stuff for us, and Dennis Gonzalez as well. Like we have guys who know the games and they write long form features. Now, what you describe as long or determine as long form, I guess that's your
couple thousand.
It's your opinion, but I mean, I don't think anybody would look at one of Kelsey or Emily's pieces and say, that was a quick hit read.
And the second part of that question is, do you think videos are kind of going to be taking over the maybe documentaries or ESPN instead of 30 for 30s like 10 for 10s or something like that, or like do you think videos are kind of wedging their way in the news world? I think for esports, with the generation that we're in now, esports the general audience is like 17, 18, 19. It's very, very young. And when these people are going to get in their 30s and their 40s, are they going to enjoy long form journalism, or are they going to be still hooked on videos and these cool interviews that you guys have with Marcel and Lisa? And
you guys do a lot of videos.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of videos.
We started doing a lot of videos because we launched
the War
with only
Room
content.
Is like really cool. That's one of my favorites.
Awesome! Yeah, War Room's a lot of fun.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Is that everyone in the office and they just?
It's not everyone, but we get like a pretty solid crew. I mean, sometimes guys have days off. There's people have their lives to live. But usually we have a lot of people who come in off shift and want to come film it. It's a lot of fun. I like to think we're a pretty fun and friendly group.
Really fun.
Sorry, on that note, I was all up in War Room and I forgot. Oh, you were talking about videos.
Yes.
I think like anything, there's coexist. I don't think the written form is going to die out to videos. I think it's just a different form of media, and people digest their media all the time. When we didn't do videos, we had a lot of I can't wait for theScore to get into video. I can't wait for theScore to get in video. And then we got into video interviews and would have loved the written interview for this one. So I think it's about balancing it out, and I just think it's a different form. Like I think you can our interviews that we do at LCS. I mean, they're interviews in the same way that our written kind of Q&A interviews are. But it's different. You see their face, you see their facial expression. You kind of get the uncut, more raw version. They're either coming off of their game, they're going to be emotional. Whereas when you kind of write an article, you don't get to see that emotion. You don't get to see that feeling. And I think some people, it's a little bit more straightforward when you're reading it because you can kind of jump to the questions that you want answered. Whereas on the video, you see a lot more of that emotional side. I don't think one's better or worse. I think they need to coexist. And I think being all encompassing, I guess, is really good, and doing a little bit of everything is very positive.
Now that's a pretty good answer, and I think that
I pride myself on the good answers.
It's a pretty good answer. No, I think you're right, and it's very funny that there's a couple of people in my program, in my year. I don't know about your year, but they like sit there and they just talk about long form journalism, and they started their own blogs, and they're writing long form. So it's not like completely dead in our demographic. Yeah. I mean, in high school you're forced to read Romeo and Juliet, so no matter what, you're reading long form something.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean, and I think it's important for long form to write beautifully. Like I don't think like if you're gonna do a quick hit, you can structure it whatever way you want, but in long form you have to really tell a story, and that's what's important in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's the different kinds of long forms. Like there's story driven pieces, there's analytical pieces that you couldn't talk about a certain statistic or certain point you want to highlight without kind of getting into the word that we've been using all night, nitty gritty. In the space. So there's different kinds of it. It's it's all about being balanced and having a little bit of everything for everybody.
Do you oversee like the video production stuff?
I do not oversee the video
Chris,
stuff. We
right?
work. Yeah, it's Chris Barrow is our director of video, and but we have an open concept office. We're always chatting. We're all like different departments, but all one group. We bounce for written ideas. We'll bounce stuff off the video guys. The video guys will bounce stuff off of us. I mean, a lot of the video guys were writers before who moved over, so we're always kind of chatting and stuff, and it's a collaborative effort.
Now that moves on into a very similar question, but I personally believe that esports has already legitimized itself. Like it's been years since esports has had a place on the map. Like it's in North America, it's in Europe, it's in Asia, it's in the southern hemisphere. It's everywhere. It's legitimized itself, but yet to one group of people it has yet to kind of legitimize itself, which is to the average sports audience. What medium do you think will do that for esports? Whether it's TV, whether it's news, whether it's video, whether it's streaming, like what do you think will push it over the edge? Is it Snapchat? Like you can literally
what I think? I think for a lot of people, it's kind of, I'd say it's more for the kind of older demographic. Not even like, I'm not talking like, our parents and grandparents. I'm talking about like, just a generation beyond us. And I think it's a mental barrier, personally. I think sometimes people get so kind of ingrained into their own ideas, and they're like, wow, kids playing video games, that's not a sport. And it's like, but people enjoy it. It's competitive. It's fun. Personally, I was saying before the show that I define, sport as competition, and on my own personal definition of it, esports is a sport, just in the same way that basketball, volleyball, chess, it's all competition. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me. Maybe one or two will agree with me, but that's kind of my personal thing, and that's not to say that like I'm right, here's why. So I think a lot of people just need to get past the mental barrier, and I think that's just exposure. I think that's a lot about seeing it a lot more, whether it's Instagram, Snapchat, a mobile app.
Hey, there's the plug.
There we go.
There's the plug. theScore Esports has their own app in the App Store.
There we do. And
give
the
it a
Google
download.
Play Store.
And
I'm teasing. But I think just seeing it more kind of will chip away at the kind of non-believers, and then they'll decide for themselves whether or not they want to keep an interest in it or whether they want to dismiss it, and that'll depend on them. But I mean, the industry's it's here to stay. It's growing, and that'll be up to the individual.
I just hope esports gets the same coverage as like traditional sports, like with all the sites, all the I don't necessarily think TV channels, but I think it definitely deserves to have the same level of coverage. It doesn't have to be called a sport to have that.
Yeah,
it could be whatever it wants to be and still be at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an audience there. It's fun. It's exciting. I think anybody who follows the scene or even knows a little bit about it. Like I know my parents. They kind of know it and they're very supportive and like super cool with it, but they don't get it. And then I show them a picture of Madison Square Garden sold out for the NA finals, or a picture of like the stadium in Paris for Worlds. And once they see thousands of people packed in watching it, a picture is worth 1,000 words, I believe, and it kind of something intangible clicks for them.
Whenever you want to show someone esports, you're right. Just show them a picture.
Show them like some ESL
Katowice,
production.
And do I think my dad's going to sit down and watch the major going on this week? Like, no, I don't. But I think that he'll like know about it going on, respect it.
Respect it, yeah, that's the thing.
Exactly.
You don't have to like it, you just have to like respect it.
Respect it.
Yeah.
Respect. It's a little aggressive, but it can be nice and kind, and we hope that people take it that way. Now we do have a couple minutes left, and I do want to ask you a little bit of a quick question.
Go for it.
It's not as tense or intense as the other questions that have been, but it is something that has been on my mind personally. Collegiate esports, very, very big in just the sports general side. Ryerson, top 2 in both men's and women's basketball. We finally have a banner.
Rams.
Yeah, go Rams. Volleyball even made it really far. Like, we've been doing really well. But from a collegiate side, esports across the board just suffers in every single aspect. Like, it's okay, it's fine, but it definitely doesn't have the same traction as regular sports do. And, obviously, thank you to Riot for doing that NA Collegiate thing. Thank you to Heroes of the Dorm. But I honestly don't think the collegiate scene in esports is really, up there. What do you think will take it to that level?
I think just time as the scene matures and gets bigger. Funny enough, when I was here, I was writing for, here's another plug, guys, The Eye Opener, the student paper at Ryerson. Personally, very biased again. I think it's the best student paper in North America. But I was writing a piece on the Ryerson StarCraft team at the time. And I was really, as a sports nerd, really was interested in getting kind of that aspect that we were talking about. And I went to Ivan Joseph, who is our athletic director, and I asked him, I was like, we have weekly meetings because I was the sports editor there. And I was like, Justin, is a, kind of an aside, like writing this piece, like, what do you think about the game? And he's like, well, like for me, a sport needs 3 things. It needs like competition. It needs teamwork. I can't remember the third one he said, but
he's my prof actually.
Oh, he's awesome. He's a fantastic. Shout out to Ivan. He is amazing. He was really like awesome to work with. Super friendly guy, and he described these things, and I was like, well, let me tell you about this game, StarCraft. And I was like, you need kind of the coordination, you need like this, and then I was like teamwork in terms of like a coaching perspective. And he's like, well, I guess by my definition, it's a sport.
Wow.
And I think it's, again, just kind of letting people know. Now, whether he was saying that for me, I mean, he's a pretty sincere guy. I'm pretty sure he meant it.
Yeah.
But, I think it'll get there. I think it just needs time.
Yeah, for sure.
You see, I mean, March Madness, I mean, is arguably bigger than the NBA. I mean, I would say like, nobody I know in, Canada is really, we're kind of away from the whole college basketball scene because we're Canadian. But I don't know a single person who doesn't watch March Madness here, and it's like they're not, they're not a USC alum or a Michigan State alum. They're just like, this is amazing. And again, it's collegiate, it's technically like semi or amateur sport.
Yeah, I would say as far as collegiate esports goes, U of T and Western are definitely U of T for sure, hands down. I mean, it's because they have such a big campus and they have so many students, and it's generally about volume of students, and that's why UBC always dominates in everything that they do. But I think it also stems from just universities acknowledging that this is a real thing, right? Robert Morris acknowledges, but they're like a community college. They're not really even like at the top of the food chain. And then I think Pike University as well, or something like that. But I think it's just like really sitting down with Ivan Joseph and be like, hey, there's this really good, StarCraft player. Hey, like, our CSGO team's in the round of 16. Like what's the big deal here? Can we figure something out?
Yeah, I think for like universities just want exposure and just another
outlet,
outlet to put your logo on and say like, here's the best CSGO team in the world like comes from Ryerson. I think like they see opportunity, they're not blind to it, and like why not?
Yeah. Well, we do have about a minute left, or roughly, or somewhere around there. It's been great having you on the show, Sean.
Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Is there anything you want to plug before?
Oh man, I already sold out. Should I sell out again?
Yeah, you can. By
Perfect.
all means.
Well, again, biased, so I'm gonna say if you haven't already, check out theScore eSports. You can download. We're a mobile app. You get all your news right to your phone as it happens. Same with scores. You can read all of our stuff, watch all of our videos on the app, if on the Google Play and Apple store. If you're not a fan of downloading apps and clogging up your phone, we also have a website.
Nice.
We got a Twitter feed with some really good memes lately.
Yeah, that's
good. And all of our news is out there too, so be sure to check us out. It's really good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good balance of memes, I must say. They'll be like, day 1 of HOTS has begun, and it'll be like, a picture of like something really hilarious. So it's like important news but funny picture. It's a great combo.
It's all about a balance.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the show today. As always, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter. On Twitter, RU _esports, and on Facebook, it's like facebook.com/pages/esportsru.
Facebook.com/esportsru.
Okay, there, done. Esportsru. There we go. Finally, after 9 weeks, I've gotten it down. As for everybody here at Ryerson University right now, David Abinovich, Joseph Raimundo, Sean Tepper, thank you guys all for listening, and tune in next week. We're either going to have a Counter-Strike related guest, or we're going to have some health related guests.
I'll be coming back from the Counter-Strike major, so I will definitely want to talk a little bit about Counter-Strike.
Hopefully with some pins in hand too.
I will definitely have my pins on my shirt somewhere.
Okay, then have a good night, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week, Tuesday at 10 p.m. as usual. I think we have 2 shows left, but we will just stay tuned. For those 2 weeks, we'll obviously still have our shows. Actually, funny enough, a little bit weird, but I think our shows are going to run till the 25th. That's what I was told, possibly, but who knows? Regardless of which, even when the semester ends, we will still be running our shows just on a different platform, just in a different way.
Maybe Twitch or
maybe
some other radio station.
We'll definitely still be alive and active. But as of for right now, thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, as well as theScore eSports on Twitter, their website, Google Play app.
There we go. We'll get you there.
We'll get you there. iTunes app, and we'll catch you guys next time.